This weekend, California will take center stage as a massive upper-level low brings snow and rain to the southwest. This system brings a ray of hope to the parched landscapes of Southern California, yet with it, the threat of damaging mud flows in the fire-scarred areas, especially around the Palisades. Most areas will be seeing about half an inch to 1 inch of rain, and there could be a few thunderstorms as well. Let's take a look at that surface chart for this afternoon. Some changes coming in from the northwest as a new anticyclone pushes in from British Columbia. We can take a quick look up there and you can see a 1036 millibar lobe, an extension of this 1044 millibar high across the Gulf of Alaska. Returning back home, we see some changes in California and Nevada as well as northerly flow gets established through the Siskiyous and southern Oregon. In Texas, we come under southerly flow. Now, typically when we see this pattern, we are starting to bring up moisture from the Gulf. But as we can see by the dew points, bone dry. Dew points running about 9 degrees at DFW to 18 at San Antonio and 2 degrees at Lubbock. Checking out the weather in the northeastern U.S., this is classic cold advection. You can see those cloud streets running from New York to Massachusetts and some lake effect snows taking place around Syracuse. We have lake effect snow warnings posted today and tonight northwest of Syracuse from just east of Rochester to Oswego, 4 to 7 inches of snow expected, with heaviest amounts near Oswego. The Lake Erie snow belt active as well, mostly in far western New York near Jamestown, Dunkirk, and Hamburg, where we have a winter weather advisory until 7 p.m., 3 to 5 inches of snow expected today before the pattern weakens. And for Saturday evening and Sunday, we have a winter storm watch downstream from Lake Ontario, Oswego to Watertown, expecting over 7 inches of snow. In the Great Lakes, just a couple winter weather advisories. The southern UP of Michigan, under a winter weather advisory overnight. They're expecting 2 to 5 inches of snow and another winter weather advisory further northwest in the Michigan UP. As we go south into the southeastern U.S., freeze warning for much of northern Florida, southern Georgia, and southeastern Alabama. There's the official forecast overnight lows, teens and 20s for Alabama, 20s for Georgia, and even 20s into northern Florida. We're looking for 26 at Gainesville, 27 at Jacksonville. That's a hard freeze. Orlando, 37. 35 at Tampa, and we warm up into the 40s around West Palm Beach and Miami. This afternoon, fair to partly cloudy skies. We're still hanging on to cold advection from Virginia into Georgia, and we start picking up some jet stream dynamics further south across Florida associated with the southern stream. And we can go ahead and check that out. There's the 250 millibar chart up at about 34,000 feet. This is a omega block. Notice how it forms a shape like the Greek letter omega. Right in the middle, that's going to be a cutoff high. And that's helping to block the storm track into the western U.S. So we've seen some rather quiet weather in that part of the country. A little bit of a cutoff low further to the east, south of Los Angeles. However, the next trough upstream, that's going to be the big weather maker for this weekend. In fact, you can check that out. Look at that shear off across central California. And we're going to talk about that shortly, but let's return to today. Returning to Florida, there's that southern stream right there, merging in with this northern stream across the Midwest into this very strong flow, 190 knot jet off the northeastern U.S. coast. And I think I can see some 200 knot flow out there south of Newfoundland. Across the southern plains, well, I did want to check out Louisiana, the Gulf Coast. A little bit of snow still on the ground this afternoon. Looks like it is melting. Just about gone there at the very end, and I think I can see some wildfires breaking out across central Louisiana. right there. There's that plume, and another one maybe just southeast of Jackson. Anyway, yeah, we've mentioned that dry air that's feeding up into Texas. And check it out. You might be looking for a dry line as that southerly flow sets up, and I started looking for a dry line almost reflexively, but I looked at those dew points and yeah, that wasn't going to be happening. In fact, even down in the lower Rio Grande Valley, 35-degree dew point at Brownsville, 25 at Corpus Christi. So the moisture is nowhere to be found. It's been scoured out even all the way to the Yucatan. Dew points in the upper 50s and lower 60s down there, and that gap wind blowing right through southern Mexico. Returning to Texas, some very dry air, as I mentioned, -4 dew point at Hobbs, and single digits and even sub-zero through southwestern Kansas. But in spite of the dry air, it has warmed up close to 60 degrees there at Waco. 50 is commonplace throughout Texas. And a big warm-up in the northern plains as well. We've seen 40s all through central South Dakota, 30s into Bismarck and Grand Forks, but that active northwesterly flow is going. Let's take a look at the upper levels. Strong upper air dynamics are afoot, and this is the layout this evening. Large trough through the Pacific Northwest, upper level low in northern Manitoba, and there's a couple of short waves and jet maxes rotating around through that cyclonic flow. You can see out there in the western U.S. that upper level low closing off across Sacramento and the Bay Area late Saturday night into Sunday, and then moving southeast into the Los Angeles area for Sunday night. Looking at conditions right now, however, very stormy in southern Wyoming and northern Colorado. There's not a whole lot going on in the upper levels, but there is a front through that area, and there's strong frontogenetic forcing. Let's take a look at the surface chart. There we can see Colorado, some very warm conditions in the southeastern part of the state. Frontal boundary running about like this, northeasterly flow through Denver, out through Akron. And as we go further to the north, we get into some colder air. It looks like that boundary is somewhere in here. And there is some isentropic lift over that frontal boundary, and we're getting some of that snow shower activity forming in the Front Range area, and snow coming down at this hour pretty close to Interstate 70. There's a quick look at the forecast accumulations of snowfall over the next 48 hours. Not really too much in the lower elevations, looking at about maybe 1 to 2 inches around Denver, but in the Front Range, those amounts come up significantly, and especially up there around Steamboat Springs. There's those winter weather advisories, mostly above 8,000 feet, looking for about 6 to 12 inches of snow in northern Colorado and southern Wyoming tonight, Saturday, and into Saturday night. Driving could be difficult along Interstate 80 between Cheyenne and Rawlins. And there could be some problems along Interstate 70 as well tonight and tomorrow. Further north, an assortment of winter storm warnings and winter weather advisories in central Montana. These run until about midnight. Then we're looking for a period of very cold weather, sub-zero temperatures across much of western Montana, northwest Wyoming, Yellowstone Park. Tomorrow night, expecting -23, cold weather advisories in effect, and that's going to be for tomorrow night. There's that large area of -10-degree temperatures. Yellowstone Park, they were forecasting -23 for tomorrow night, but they've taken that a little bit warmer to -13 to -19. Still, I would not want to be out in that. And then we go into the southwestern region. Fair skies, 70s across the lower deserts of Arizona, 60s in Southern California, and 50s in Nevada. However, the deep cutoff low is on the way. Winter storm watches are posted in south-central Nevada, south of Tonopah, also in the California Owens Valley, and there you can see some very impressive lee-side cirrus. In other words, in the lee side of the mountain range. So we're getting that flow right there directly across the mountains, and we're forming these standing waves just downstream, and some other waves further down. These are gravity waves that extend all across the Great Basin area into Utah. So that indicates very fast flow moving through that region, and of course the weather's going to get even more dynamic with that cutoff low settling in across that region. Let's take a look at the warnings and advisories. Well, this is starting to look like Grandma's quilt. A definite patchwork of different advisories. Let's go through a few of them very quickly. Northwestern Arizona, the Mojave Desert. These are going to be mostly the higher elevations. Winter storm watch that runs through Tuesday morning, starts late tomorrow night. They're looking for about 3 to 8 inches of snow above 5,000, 10 to 18 inches above 7,000. Some parts of Interstate 15 right through this area just west of Primm. Those parts of the freeway are above 4,000 feet elevations. That puts them in that snow area, so they will probably see a couple of inches of accumulation, mostly on Sunday, and that could cause some traffic problems. Not seeing anything on Interstate 40 at this time, even though they're placed in that winter storm watch area. Also in the Sierras and the central part of Nevada, winter weather advisory, 7 a.m. Saturday through Sunday. And of course, we've got the winter storm watches further to the south. In Southern California, well, that almost needs a section of its own. We can't go into detail on all of this. Otherwise, we're going to be here all night, but you can see that there is a winter storm warning for the San Bernardino Mountains all the way down towards the San Diego forecast area. They're expecting 1 to 2 feet of snow in this pink area. Further to the northwest, winter weather advisory covering I-5 into Tejon Pass. The Grapevine, they're looking for probably 1 to 2 inches of snow there on the freeway. And this winter weather advisory that runs 4 p.m. Saturday to 4 p.m. Monday. Looking for accumulations up to 8 inches, winds 35 miles an hour. Snow levels down to 4,000. Tejon Pass is at 4,100 feet, so that is going to definitely graze the freeway very closely with some significant snows. In the valleys themselves, we do have flood watches, and we do have to pay pretty close attention to the Palisades, burn scars all through here. You're dumping 1/2 inch to 1.5 inches on top of that, and that can quickly get erosion and mud flows going. So that will be a definite problem in those areas and possibly around Altadena as well. Here's a quick look at snow totals in Southern California. Again, this is a manual forecast. This is starting out with model data, kind of a combined model field, and adjusted by human forecasters. So this is combining some of the best worlds here. They're looking for 8 inches up there around Big Bear. We've got one viewer, Ron Chalfant, who lives up there. Hopefully he can provide some updates. 13 inches, maybe even higher, out in the San Gabriel range, and additional heavy snows out there west of the Grapevine. The Sierra Nevada is looking for significant snow as well. This is mostly elevation dependent, so your heavier snows are going to be up in the higher elevations above 7,000 to 8,000 feet. Down in the valleys, the Owens Valley, about 1 to 2 inches. And snows extend all the way up to Lake Tahoe and Reno. Reno itself looking for 1 inch, and it tapers off as you go further north. Northern California and the Siskiyous looking for pretty much nothing. Then looking at the Pacific Northwest, that large anticyclone helping to clear things out. So we're not looking at any significant snows except, of course, around Montana. However, in the coastal ranges, northwestern California into southwestern Oregon, we do have a cold weather advisory. Wind chills will be down into the single digits this weekend. We have a freeze warning from Port Orford to Coos Bay tonight. Temperatures will be dropping down to 30. And air stagnation advisories continue from the Dalles, Pendleton, Yakima over to Colville, Omak, Coeur d'Alene, Spokane, as that area continues to be subject to that strong inversion. And that's been a problem we've been seeing over the past 2 weeks. All right, so that's what's going on in the lower 48. There's that large high pressure area out there in the northeast Pacific. Alaska is starting to get very active. Not only this winter weather system in the western part of the state, but an atmospheric river starting to set up. Look at those temperatures there. That's well above normal for this time of year. 40s, even close to 50 in some areas. If we take a look at the precipitable water amounts, looking at the percentiles relative to climatology, we see that we're at all-time highs in southern Alaska. So this is kind of an unprecedented event for this time of year, and it will remain near those all-time highs through tomorrow. And then gradually through Sunday, we see the pattern start to taper off. Here's a quick look at the progression of that system. Starting out with tonight, mixed phase precipitation extending into the central part of the state, and gradually the pattern starts shifting eastward. And then heading into Canada, there is the core of the Arctic air from Ellesmere Island down towards the Boothia Peninsula. In the Canadian prairies, temperatures warmer than what we were seeing about a week ago. Looking at temperatures in the teens and 20s, and even a few 30s in Alberta, where we have downslope flow from the pressure gradient with that high pressure in British Columbia. All right, let's go ahead and look at that forecast going into tonight. There's that area of unsettled weather, northern Colorado and southern Wyoming. In this area along a east-west cold front through Utah and Nevada. For Saturday, our storm system begins developing out there in California. Out to the east, a Alberta Clipper system moves through the Great Lakes, and we see the precipitation gradually shift into the northeastern U.S. for Sunday. Storm system coming together in Texas as that warm advection develops. Showers and rain into Louisiana. Not looking for any severe weather. There could be a couple of thunderstorms, but it looks like for the most part this is going to be shower activity. Then we go into Monday. Our southwestern U.S. system shifts into the Four Corners, and Arizona could be kind of an unsettled afternoon Monday into Monday night around Flagstaff and Winslow. Another burst of cold air coming through the Great Lakes for late Monday into Tuesday. Here's another Alberta Clipper working southeast. That's going to be kind of a dry system, a push of cold air east of the Mississippi River Valley. Now we're starting to get upslope flow there in Texas, isentropic lift ahead of this next system emerging from Mexico. So this could be kind of a rainy pattern for the end of next week with mixed precip and snow in West Texas and New Mexico. Another Pacific frontal system coming inland for the following weekend. Then we start shifting our attention up to the north. Looks like the Arctic regions are getting active. Let's take a look at that on the Canadian weather charts. So as mentioned, there's plenty of Arctic air up there in the northern part of Nunavut. Most of that is going to be moving into the Hudson Bay region and Quebec. What we're going to be watching is in Alaska, the Chukchi Sea and the Beaufort Sea. Things are going to be getting cold going into late next week as some Arctic air moves out of Siberia into Alaska. And we see minus 30s, minus 40s developing. And as we get up to Friday and Saturday, anticyclogenesis 1048 millibars, 1050, and 1060 over Yukon on February 1st. When we see those 1060s and 1065s, that is significant. That's usually going to have an impact in the lower 48. So we're going to watch for that cold air to surge south, possibly British Columbia, down through Cut Bank, Great Falls. We haven't seen a good Arctic air outbreak that far west in quite a while. So this certainly could have effects for the central and western states, although this is pretty far out, 234 hours. So we're not going to really read too much into this, but be aware the GFS has been keying in on this for a while. There is some consistency with a scenario of cold air coming south. So that's something we're going to have to monitor over the next week. And that will do it for this edition of Forecast Lab. Unfortunately, we don't have a cross-section for today. We had a data outage upstream, so we don't have all the products. But hopefully that will return on Monday on the private supporter show. So if you want to catch that Monday show, head to Patreon and get signed up, and you will get that delivered to your device or your email box. Otherwise, we'll see you back here on Wednesday. Hope you have a great weekend. Take care, and we will see you soon. Bye-bye.